McDonald with the Office of Congressman Greg Steube, Florida 17th District, and this interview is for the Library of Congress's Veterans History Project. I would like to introduce Petty Officer 3rd Class Edward Sutton, a World War II veteran of the United States Navy. Mr. Sutton, where were you born?
In Bridgeton, New Jersey,
And what year was that?
1927.
And who were your parents?
My parents were Ernest Sutton and Alice Conover Sutton.
Okay, and what were their occupations?
My father basically was with the telephone company, New Jersey Bell, for about 40-some years. But during that time, he also was in the Seabees in the Navy for, I don't know how long that was, but that's where he was in the World War II.
Okay, and how many siblings did you have?
I have,
One sister, right?
I had two sons and two daughters.
No, not your children. You said you had one
sibling.
Yes.
My sister.
Okay, and what was her name?
Jean.
And was she older or younger than you?
She was younger, 7 years younger than me.
Okay, what was your childhood like?
Well, it was very good, really. My mother tried to give me everything I wanted, but of course she wasn't in a position to do everything. But we weren't in the higher class group, but she got us along pretty good.
Okay. Can you tell us about when you went into the military? What year that was?
That was in April 1st, 1945.
Okay. And what branch of service did you choose and why?
It was the United States Navy because I was always interested in ships and on the water, and my grandfather on my father's side was an oysterman, and he had a business of oysters out in the Delaware Bay. But so I was around boats and things for quite a bit of my life.
Okay. And did you enlist or were you drafted?
I was enlisted.
Okay. Tell me about your boot camp. Where was that and how was it?
That was in Sampson, New York, and it was different, let's put it that way. We were up at the crack of dawn every day, and we had to run what they called the grinder. We did that every morning before we went to the mess hall for breakfast. And it was always, everywhere you went, you had to march in a group, and it was a different form of life.
Right. Did they shave your head?
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
We were nicknamed skinheads.
Oh wow. Okay. And what was the food like?
Food was, for having to feed so many people, it was not too bad. But I just didn't like the way they served it sometimes, because we had trays and they just threw everything on there, and everything got mixed up. But it was pretty tasty, some of it.
Okay. Now, while you were at boot camp, what weapons did they train you with? I'm assuming that you trained with some sort of rifle.
Oh, no, we had a rifle, but we trained for fire suppression, and all kinds of different things that you would get in the ship, general quarters for where everybody had a position to take, and we had to learn to follow orders, and I remember when my father told me when I went in, he says, the big thing to get along with is to keep your eyes and ears open and your mouth shut, and you'll get along. And that was true.
Okay. And what about job training? What was your job in the Navy?
My job in the Navy was a demolition outfit, basically. Originally, I was going to be an amphibious corps, where we would take the landing craft full of Marines and whatever else we had and take them on the shore and drop them off. And then when didn't need that, I ended up in the demolition group, and we cleaned out all the ammunition and things that were stored in caves and warehouses in the Yokosuka area. That was the big Japanese naval base there. It was south of Tokyo, southeast, I guess it was.
Okay.
But that was, and then when that was done, I ended up in the guard out group, and as a third class, I had a group of guards that we went out on duty at certain times for hours.
Okay. So how long did your training take, and where was that? I'm not sure what it's called in the Navy, but in the Army it's called AIT. So after boot camp, where did you go for that job training?
Well, yeah, I started from there. I went to Shoemaker, California,
Okay.
which is where the amphibious groups were. And I was there for maybe a week or so. And they put us on a ship, and we went out to the Marshall Islands, which is where atoll. I was on one of the smaller atolls in that area, and we were basically training for the invasion of Japan, and then they dropped the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So they put me on another ship with a group I was with, and we went into Tokyo Bay and up to Yokosuka, and I got put in what they call the Division Demo, which is the demolition outfit, a group of us that were cleaning out all these stored ammunitions and things around it,
Okay.
destroying it all.
So how did they transport you from your boot camp in New York to your job training in California?
Train.
And how was that train ride?
that was pretty long.
Yeah. How many days would you say it took?
I think it was like 3 days, maybe 4.
Yeah. Were there any stops?
Not where you could get off, but they stopped to change train route crews and things like that. But we never got off of the
train?
Cars.
Okay. And was that your first time on a train?
No, I don't think so. No, it wasn't.
Okay. So from California, tell me about how you got to Japan.
Well, we left San Francisco and went to Hawaii. And that was one of the things I could say, but I had been to Hawaii. All I saw was Diamond Head when we went into Pearl Harbor, and Diamond Head when I left. They wouldn't let us off the base. I was only there for 48 hours. And they put me on another ship, and we went to the Marshall Islands.
Okay, and so...
And that ship I remember.
Okay.
That was the USS Blackford, which was a converted LST, and we went out, we were on that, I don't know, 4 or 5 days, I guess. They didn't go very fast. And it was different. That one went across the international date line.
Okay.
I never did get down as low as the equator, but so I'm not in that group.
Okay. So, for part of your service, FDR was still the president. What were your thoughts about him at the time?
Well, I guess they didn't have much choice, but he was actually the only president I really remember. I think Hoover was president when I was born, but I was too young to think about this. So the thing that I always thought of was after FDR died and Truman was the president, and he's the one that made the decision to drop the bombs, and I kind of feel like he saved my life by doing that, because we didn't have to invade Japan. And I was told that we were in the early waves and they expected to like 80 or 90% casualties, not all deaths, but high casualty rate for that early landings. So I didn't get involved in any of that.
Okay. So you went to Marshall Island. Were you stationed there, or were you just passing through?
Well, everybody in that tent city that I was in was sort of passing through there. We're training, and some of them, like I guess, went other places besides Japan, or other places in Japan. But we were living in a tent city.
Oh, wow. Okay. And so from Marshall Islands, when you went to Yokosuka, Japan, tell me about that experience. What was it? Was it chaotic, or was there order by the time you went?
It was, we were on edge a lot, but we got along pretty good. We had some Japanese work crews that were working with us, and some of those were pretty nice people. But I did get to go on when I was on Liberty a few times. I went to Tokyo and I went to Yokohama, Kamakura, Fujisawa, and then I went on a rest and relaxation week, and they put us on trains and sent us to Nagano, which is, I think that's where they had the Winter Olympics later. But that was a different experience. That was up in the mountains.
Okay. So, would you say that your time in Japan was the longest time that you spent anywhere during your time in service?
Now, that was the only place I went except for Samson and Shoemaker.
Right.
Well, when I came back to Bainbridge, and I was there for maybe a week, and they sent me to Lido Beach up in Long Island, and that's where I got discharged.
Okay.
And I came back home.
Did you make any friendships in Japan among the other?
Not that were lasting. I didn't remember. No.
Okay.
Of the you talk about the Japanese people.
No, not just the Japanese, but just among the other Navy.
The Navy people.
Right.
Most of them were from the West. I don't know why I ended up with, I had some friends that I messed around with on Liberty and all, from Texas, Oklahoma, California, and one from Pennsylvania that was in my group.
Okay. How did you stay in touch with family and friends while you were in Japan?
Hey, I got along with everybody pretty well. I didn't have any major problems of any kind.
Right. Were you able to send any letters to your family or friends back home?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. And how long would you say it would take to deliver a letter and receive something back?
Well, maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know. It wasn't like airmail overnight back and forth. So.
Right. Okay. What was sick call like while you were in Japan?
What was?
Sick call. How were you guys treated when you were sick?
Well, fortunately, I didn't get sick while I was in Japan, so I didn't have any. But usually they had pretty good
Navy doctors?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know if you ever went to a Japanese, not you, but your comrades, were they ever sent to a local Japanese hospital for treatment, or if it was really bad, were they sent
Not that I
home?
know of.
Okay.
We had a couple of them that went. So we had I don't know what you'd call it, not a hospital, but a dispensary of some sort
Okay.
on base that would take care of most of. Nobody that I know had any serious things like they needed surgery or anything like that.
Okay. And in Marshall Island, you said it was tent city. What was housing or lodging like when you were in Yokosuka?
Well, Yokosuka, we were in a barracks,
Okay.
and our group wasn't great as far as numbers, and we had our own little barracks that we stayed in.
And what did you do for fun when you were off duty?
Well, basically, if I went on duty, off duty, I'd go try to get out and see some of the things that I would probably never ever see again. So that's why I ended up in visits to Tokyo and Yokohama and those places. But I didn't get involved in playing cards and things like that.
Okay, so you were you would take that time for adventures to
Yeah.
see Japan. That's great. Did you ever take any buddies?
Any what?
Any friends? Did you take any friends, or were you?
Well,
was it just you?
sometimes, yeah, most of the time we had a group of 2 or 3 or 4 that went out together when
Okay. And what did you think of the food while you were there?
the food.
Yes.
Oh, it was in the mess hall. It was good.
Yeah.
I can't complain. We all complained at the time, but I think back. It was the mess halls in those areas. They did a pretty good job trying to keep us happy.
Good. What was your favorite memory during your time serving in Yokosuka?
Favorite memory? Well,
Was there anything particularly humorous or unusual?
Yeah, no, not really. I remember one time that we were out cleaning out some stuff, and we had a pile of ammo, and we had a guy that set us to set it off, and I don't know what he did with the I'm trying, well, I'll tell you when I get older. The, anyway, he came back and he said, well, that's gonna blow up in a short period of time. We waited and waited and waited, nothing happened. So we started out, and I got to the opening of the cave, and then it blew up, and I could feel the heat from it, but I wasn't close enough to do it to get any hurt. Nobody was there,
Okay.
got hurt, but it was a shock at the time it happened. But that was one of the closest things that happened to me.
Okay. So a close
But
call.
the other thing was the rest of going in on that rest and rehabilitation trip out to Nagano. There was an awful lot of snow out there. We had skis and things like that we could use, and I got on skis and I went about 3 feet and fell down and couldn't get up, and I took them off and I never was on a pair of skis since. But they had a hot springs in there that we could sit in there and relax, and that was a nice show. That was for a week, so that worked out.
Okay. So tell me about leaving Yokosuka and coming back to the United States. What was that process like, from the time you had to pack up your barracks to the time you got back
Well,
home?
that's a funny thing, and I can't remember. I think it was the USS or the SS Knox, I think. I can't remember the number of it, but we were packed in there and heading back to the States. And about the second day out, I was in my bunk talking to people, and I keep hearing this over the ship's loudspeaker that they wanted Charles E. Sutton to go up to the quarterdeck. I said, there must be another Sutton on there, I don't know. So I didn't do it. And about an hour later, an officer showed up down, and he said to me, are you Sutton? I said, yeah. He says, how come you didn't come up there? He was mad.
I'm sure.
And I said, well, you were calling for Charles Sutton, and I'm Edward Sutton. He says, let me see your dog tags. So I whipped them out, and then he calmed down. He says, oh, well, you're the one I wanted to see. So he said, come with me. And he gave me a duty. My duty was every day to go up and open up the gear locker and hand my crew mops and things, and we had to clean the forward head.
Okay.
So I handed it all out and let them take care of it, and I stood out on deck and watched the water go by. But and that worked out all right. I think the guy he was an ensign or a Lieutenant JG that it was mad as the devil and came down here. He was ready to throw me overboard, I think, until they realized they made a mistake. So
Okay.
that was one of my odd experiences.
Okay.
So then from then we ended up in Treasure Island in San Francisco Bay, and I was there for 4 or 5 days. And then I got put on a train and sent back.
Okay. So just for the record, in your 15 months of time in service, were you ever in combat?
No,
Okay.
I was fortunate in that respect because I didn't go in until my 18th birthday, and it was I
Okay. So, do you recall any promotion ceremonies or any special ceremonies?
no, we didn't have too many of those
Okay. So,
that we intended anyway. Because usually when I got promoted to the 3rd class, they just handed me my new stripes, and that was it.
okay. And when you got back to the United States, where was it that you entered?
I entered in Treasure Island in San Francisco Bay, and then from then on a train I ended up in Bainbridge, Maryland, which was another boot camp that they had. And then I went from by train again up to New York, where they gave me my discharge.
Okay. So back to New York. And what did your family think about you coming back home? How were you received?
Oh, fine, great.
Yeah.
My mother was glad, especially because nothing happened to me while I was gone. So,
And how did you readjust to your civilian life?
well, I didn't have too much of a problem. I used a GI Bill, went on to college,
Okay.
and I got a degree from the University of Wyoming. I went out there to school, and it was.
Okay, that's great. I know that President Roosevelt, he put the GI Bill into place during his time as president, so it's awesome that you use that benefit.
Yeah, it saved a lot of money for my family, that's for sure.
For sure, yeah. Did you use your VA home loan as well?
No, I didn't use that.
Okay. So, how would you say your time in service changed you?
Well, it taught me to really how to obey orders. And I tried to be sympathetic with the things and not get all upset. No, one of the things I forgot to mention is when I mentioned I had 2 sons and 2 daughters, but I had 2 stepsons also from a later marriage. And my youngest son and the 2 stepsons are retired Navy chiefs. They went in the Navy, and my youngest son he was in for 22 years, and he came out as a chief petty officer, which I believe is a E7, and so he's right now he lives in Massachusetts, in Boston, because he took a job with an outfit up there.
Okay. Did you join any veteran organizations?
No, I didn't. My feeling was I had enough on my plate that I felt that I couldn't do them very much good, so I just never joined.
Okay. What message would you like to leave for future generations who will hear or see your interview?
Well, I think one of the things nowadays is they should have some patriotic beliefs and the and just be aware of what they call the greatest generation that I was in, of what good they did for the country and how many of them lost their lives, and it's a shame to see some of the things that are happening now, but that's not part of my. But I think that they should be ready to serve if they need it, if it needed, and not just wait for the handouts. That's my own.
Okay. Well, thank you for taking the time to share your recollections of your military service. You served from
45 to 46.
April 1st, 1945 to July 8th, 1946. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Is there anything you would like to add that we haven't covered in this interview?
No, I can't think of anything now. I think it was good for me to have that experience and help me with my career as I retired from Verizon as a equipment engineering manager. And that was back in 1988. I've been retired a long time now. But the only other thing that I might have thought of would have been joining the Navy Reserve, or even going back into the Navy after I got my degree. I probably could have gotten a commission, but I did all right where I was, so I can't complain.
You did. You did. And so you mentioned your kids a few times during this interview. Is there anything that you want to say to your kids or to your wife before we conclude?
No, I've thank my wife right now for all she's put up with. But as I'm getting to the age now where I need assistance a lot, and she's had to take on more than she should. But and my two sons, not the stepsons, but the two sons, have made a good life for themselves, and they're both retired. Well, one has stayed retired. My son retired from the Navy, but he took a job with another company, and he's still working. But he's 53 right now, so he hasn't got too long before he.
Okay.
But he's been good to me, and both of my daughters, we've been fortunate in the fact that we have not gotten to the point where we had to go to the kids and request help for monetary help or whatever. And likewise, I'm fortunate at 97 that I have not lost any of my kids.
Yes.
And they haven't gotten to the point where they're asking me for help. And so it's worked out pretty good for us.
Wow. Well, thank you again for your time today, sir. And of course, thank you for your service.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad to be able to do it.